Yeah, there has been some conversations in different teams about, like what is pragmatism, or when are we being pragmatic, when are we being religious, or something like that. So I thought about showing everyone just what I think about these things. Yeah, and then we can have some discussions in the end, but I decided to do a little bit of something fun, which is I'll take the summary as a top gear summary. So I'm going to start by taking the meaning of a word, and then I'll paraphrase some guy, and I'll worry in some terms, and I'll let you know my opinion in the end. That's the top gear. I don't know if people know about that or not, but I found the summary fun. No, but in reality, what I'm going to say is I'm going to talk about what's pragmatism, what it's not. What does Deming have to say about not pragmatism, but in terms of like productivity and how we can improve the current systems. What have our practices ever done for us? Okay, let's then be pragmatic. So I went to the dictionary, and this is what I think points to what most of us use as pragmatism. So something that is practical. So you look at, it's not something in theory. It's like looking at the context and seeing at this point in time, looking at a practical point of view, what can I do with this solution or problem. But the problem is that as we've done so far, some of these things have been hurting us. Not just as equal experts as a company, but mostly as an industry. We've done a lot of bad things in the name of pragmatism. Sometimes we end up with systems that are just too complicated, that don't do much, too complicated, but because we need to get it out, we need to be pragmatic and do the fastest thing that can possibly work, and in the end we end up with a mess. Of course, there has been times where people say, I'm going to be pragmatic, but in reality what they want to say is that I don't have the discipline to actually go around and just do the right thing. Because some of this discipline is, it takes time for us to acquire the right skills, and so it's easier to just drop the discipline instead of looking at improving how we do things. And sometimes we just forget about all these practices. We just we're not paying attention, and we just forget about it. We don't use them. We say, let's use it, but then we don't. So sometimes what happens as well is that we use pragmatism as a way of imposing our own, thoughts or ideas into others. We say, because this is a pragmatic way of doing it, so you should do it because. So in discussions, sometimes it happens that we use the pragmatism as a way of imposing our own thoughts on other people. And that ends up with us having discussions that have they are not productive enough. Sometimes we want to solve a problem, but we end up not solving the problem, having a lot of discussions, but actually not solving the problem. So what Deming would say, or say we shouldn't do, is that everyone does their best, because we all are already doing our best, so that's not going to change anything. So there's more to this than just asking people for doing their best. Everyone is just doing their best, even though sometimes we just make mistakes. So the important thing that Deming was talking about is about how we can improve productivity by improving quality. So that's the main goal, or the main theme here is, I'll resume a little bit later on, but the idea is that we can improve quality, and that will increase productivity. So we can see that Mercedes can build a lot of cars, good cars, and Russia also have built some cars which not even good nor fast to build. So how do we define quality, or how can we think, okay, what is quality and what is not quality? So I will define quality in two different ways. One of them is to be able to adapt to unexpected situations. So if it's easy for us to change something that is unexpected, then I would say that that's a quality that that is something that the product has quality, because it can. So it's not about like having all the configuration possible that can happen, because that doesn't increase possible, because you can't think about everything that can happen. It's about you designing things or making the teams work in a way that even if something unexpected happens, that we have the way to adapt to these things. The other part is, so this is an example of, basically adapting to things. So architectural changes, or like in terms of teams, like if someone leaves the team, or the customer changes things, requirements or everything, and you need to adapt to this kind of things. So that's for me what quality, increasing quality means, increasing the responsiveness that we can in terms of what we can do. So the other one is, of course, business value. So if we're building something that increases business value for the customer, we are doing the right thing. So two things here: flexibility in terms of adapting to, and the other one is creating business value. The other thing that Deming talks about is waste. So how can we, improve productivity? Is by decreasing waste. So what kinds of waste do we have on our day-to-day basis? Bugs are waste, of course. Spending time debugging is waste. Holding on to tech that is waste. Everything that is test-related can be a source of waste. And there's also, like architectural monolith and things like that make it harder for us to change our waste. In terms of teams, we can have waste on, pointless meetings, or people pairing that are actually distracted, so they're not contributing, or something like that. So this is another form of waste. Another form of waste is, of course, building the wrong product. So we don't want to, like build a product which is a fridge for an Eskimo, because that doesn't give him any value. And of course, the other one is building the product wrong. So we don't want to build the wrong product. We don't want to build the product wrong. We want to be flexible on the things, and so I think our product. So in the end, the theme is we want to increase quality, reduce waste. So that's what we should focus on when we're developing our products and actually talking to our customers. What we should focus on is increase quality, reduce waste. This should bring us increased productivity straight away. So we have to, weigh in, how much waste do we reduce? What is waste? Should we remove all the waste, or how can the removal of waste will impact quality? So in our practices, so for example, test-driven development, we know that there's some things that we have to invest in. So there's time that we invest in doing this, because tests also need maintenance and some time to get them done. But how they reduce waste is by giving us like fast feedback loops, so reducing the risk that things are wrong. So there's like we said, bugs are risks, are waste. So they reduce the number of bugs, but also by having the fast feedback loop, you can focus on what you're doing and all those things. So there's more examples like pair programming. The cost is that it actually splits productivity in two, but then the amount of risk that it reduces and the amount of waste that it reduces by not having to, for example, do pull requests and wait for these things, or like if someone goes on holidays, we don't have to look for that person to, talk to them. Why did you do this way, or why is that done, or how does this work? Things like that. So there's CIs. Like the theme is okay. All of our practices have benefits, and they have usually investment in time and maintenance. So DevOps as well, it reduces some kind of risk. User testing, like to make sure that we build the right product and all this stuff. So in terms of our practices, I think we should be very careful when we just drop them in the bin. Like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So we have to think very carefully about exactly why, because our practices, they have these things. They have benefits and they have costs. So we need to make sure that whenever we drop them, that the reason is that the benefits no longer are bigger than the costs. So you have to say, the costs are this, they are too high, we cannot pay them because the benefits are too low. And this has to be, everyone has to accept that the costs are bigger than the benefits. So when we try to do this in our projects, sometimes we end up in a phase where the client is just, they're not ready to work the way we want to, and we have to be the guys with a growth mindset and being patient in terms of preparing the clients, and also waiting and trying to make sure that they understand the costs and the benefits and all this stuff, so that they, over time, they move from this fixed mindset that they have against, or prejudice against some of the practices that we have. And we have to pick our fights. Sometimes you can't just fight all the wars, because that will be just basically not productive, and it will most likely annoy other people. Most important for us is that it's much better to just do many small improvements, even within our own practices. Like, make sure that we just let's not try and if you want to improve like the architecture of the thing, maybe you don't have to improve like all at the same time. Just go bit by bit, improve bit by bit, be patient. Just make sure you use the Boy Scout rule, which is leave the things a little bit better than you find it before. Another thing that is important for this is that in order for us to be able to understand how much are we improving, we have to measure things, and I think we're a little bit lacking in this respect. In all the projects, I think the thing that we're lacking more is feedback about how we're doing. Like how good is TDD doing for us? So we actually don't know exactly. We have some kind of estimations that we've done, and we can feel, but we don't have any data. And it's important for us to know, for example, especially between projects, you see like how much time are we wasting because of these extra bugs? How much time are we wasting? And for example, if we don't communicate well with the client that we are building the wrong thing, how much waste are we generating per project? We don't have those numbers, and it would be very good if we could track them. So we can use Trello or Jira or things that they usually have measurements that we can take to prove that. But this would also help us out when deciding to drop some practices. We have to have some data to say this costs us X, and we can only pay Y, and Y is less than X, and so we shouldn't do it. Another thing that we should use is focus retrospectives in these two areas. How can we improve quality and reduce waste? So that will be one of the focus for our retrospectives. That's it. That's all I had to do.